so I don't remember much about Gert at all until she was already married. And I guess she married.
Well, she got married when she was only 16.
Yeah, so that'll be the next year.
Instead of graduating, I mean, she and Bob ran off when she had Christmas vacation from school and went down to Plymouth and got married.
Couple of kids.
Yeah, a couple of kids, that's all. Bob was a little bit older than she.
How much older was Bob than Gert, do you remember?
I don't remember what that date was on his tombstone, but Gert was born in 1904, and he was 1896 or something like that. And,
maybe 6 or 7 years, maybe 7 or 8 years older than she.
so my first recollections really were he went off to New York to find work, except he did have the candy store in Rockport where Emma worked. I can remember when he closed it up, we got lots of the leftover candy. That was great. And he went off to New York, and Gert lived with his mother up on Main Street. She was the bookkeeper for Howard Hodgkin's War. And Howard Hodgkin's daughter, I think wife and daughter Millie Strong, opened that restaurant. That was the Lobster Claw, which is now the Hannah Jumper.
Susie Mae Hodgkins.
And they made their own ice cream. And I remember going to visit Gert at the office of the fish company
upstairs.
Yeah, from school one afternoon, and I was leaving to go home, and she hollered out of the upstairs window at me and threw me a nickel to buy myself an ice cream cone from the Lobster Claw.
Big Sister Gert.
Yeah, 5 cents.
And then when you misbehaved, Aunt Emma said, Mill, you got 2 dimes? Yeah. It was a dime by then, you see.
One day
now it's $1 and something.
In Rockport in the summer, and I promised David an ice cream. We left Front Beach, and I crossed the street, and I couldn't find him anywhere. He ran ahead of me. I went to Emma's house on the corner of Gott Street. He wasn't there, so I left Beverly and went up to my mother's. He wasn't there. Went down to the Pools barn where we were staying. He wasn't there, so I came back to Emma's, and she was saying, I wouldn't buy him any ice cream. I wouldn't buy him any ice cream. But I went over to the place where we were going to buy the ice cream, and there he was, patiently waiting for us. He was on the other side of the street, and I had crossed the street. So she says, got 2 dimes, Mill.
Hard-hearted Emma, she was the softest.
I do remember waiting and seeing a bus go by. And I think that's what we figured out happened. As the bus went by, you were on the other side of the street behind the bus.
Whatever happened to my mama?
It just got just enough ahead of me so that I couldn't see you, and I crossed the street at the wrong time.
So Uncle Bob came from Rockport then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, yes.
I guess because they lived down in New York, I figured that he'd come from somewhere else and they'd met her somehow. And
Bob was a Rockporter. In fact, his father was sort of the main conductor out of Rockport, right? The engineer for the train.
I really didn't know him.
Engineer, yeah, his father. I mean, he was well off, in comparison to a lot of people. No, his father was an engineer for the B&M Railroad.
Good steady work.
Oh, yes, good steady work.
He was an only child.
And Bob was an only child, yes, because his mother was very, very Catholic, and his father was very, very against anti-Catholic, and he wouldn't have him go near the Catholic Church. And so he was brought up Universalist. Bob was brought up Universalist, like Dyke was too. Maybe not for the same reason.
I remember them over
for the same reason.
Over the church.
And
Kay Breen was there.
Kay Breen.
He was Universal.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's how I remembered Mrs. Ross. but I didn't know her name was Betsy. Yes, somebody they knew Betsy Ross. Who you mean? You mean the one that made the flag?
You know, we call her Betsy Ross,
Yeah.
my first grade teacher.
Oh, yeah. Everybody did.
She was Kay's Sunday school teacher. I remember going to Sunday school with Kay once in a while at the university.
I don't know, maybe her name wasn't Betsy, but we all called her Betsy.
Yeah, I know that. I don't
Later
know
years.
what her first name was, really. But she's a lovely woman. Yeah. Yeah, Bob was tried just about everything. He was in the First World War, you know. His hobnail boots and water canteen are down our Sandy Bay Museum on the corner of King Street and Railroad Avenue, King Street and Granite. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't know
We
that.
gave
Stone
him,
House,
yes, we went, and I figured the helmet, his tin hat, must have gone to the Beale kids sometime or other. I don't know, but I just assume, you know, if they had access to Gert's cellar.
Oh, yes.
And she most likely would have given, because certainly he had that hat, and he must have had that to bring back with him.
Helmet.
The helmet, yes, but his hobnail boots still had French mud in them.
He wouldn't let you clean them out.
No, sir, you couldn't clean those hobnails. I can't imagine anybody being able to walk in them, let alone march and, you know, and do soldiering. He was in the tank corps. That much I remember. And I said to him once, I don't know why you didn't wait till I grew up.
Oh.
I thought he was wonderful.
Yeah,
Bob was just wonderful. He could always make a joke out of, you know, the other. Mm-hmm.
I remember that about
Tough
him.
situation. He was great. He was
He had plenty of tough situations.
just, I guess so. And he was a selectman in the town at one time. He was town selectman, remember?
Here in Rockport.
Yeah. And he worked, what, with Mr.
He
Babcock
worked for
on
Frank
the,
Babcock.
with the tree? What
Now,
did they
who's
call
Frank
it? The tree
Babcock?
department?
Tree warden.
He was tree warden for the town,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
that became in time.
I remember Frank Babcock telling Bob Murray, Bob worked for Frank. Frank was the tree warden for 34 years. And he told how when Bob worked for him, because they did tree work, and they had definite procedures on treating wounds. They'd scribe them, you know, and paint them so they would heal properly. And when Bob went to New York for the insurance company, a car hit a tree, you know, and scarred the tree up. Well, they had to make an insurance claim. And of course, no one knew anything about trees. But because Bob knew about trees and how the wound could be taken care of, they came up with a method of setting the rates
Oh, yeah.
according to the amount of damage had been done. He had that knowledge, so I think he was put in the department, he was put in charge of that department that had to do with damaged trees,
Claims, yeah.
insurance, with a
can
plus for
remember.
it.
One section of the claims department,
I
yeah.
remember when he was a claims adjuster,
Yeah.
the stories he used to tell about
No people.
Claims adjuster.
finding,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
he'd have to go out to investigate.
Well, he became more valuable because of that knowledge. And he got it from Frank Babcock in Rockport.
I remember when they lived in Valley Stream and I was visiting, he brought home his briefcase and said he had some homework and it was a box of Fandy Farmer's chocolates. It was the best kind of homework.
Yeah. Yeah, he always kept Gert in chocolates. I mean, she always had a box of chocolates in that drawer in the buffet in Valley Stream.
So how long did he live?
Till 1960.
I mean, how old were you when he passed away?
That I
64.
don't, well, that must have
If
been
he was
64.
about 18, if he was born 1896, yeah. But he wanted to retire at 62, but before he got to retiring, his last physical, you know, they found all manner of things wrong.
He was fairly young then.
Yep, yeah. And he had to go on that salt-free diet, and
Very high blood pressure.
yeah, that was it.
Talking about being very dizzy
Yeah.
in the town.
Well, he had carried that crippled boy upstairs to bed and downstairs in the morning for how many years? Junior was
14.
Yeah, 14 years. Yeah, Junior was taken when he was about 7. He got,
Yes.
I mean, he got the polio when he was about 7,
Yeah.
between 7 and 8 years old.
Yes.
was at the end of his second grade. He was 7 years old. It was in the
I
spring.
think so.
Yeah, when he got into the dirt at the picnic,
Yeah.
the school picnic. Yeah, I remember because Mom was out there visiting at the time.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and she said Gert gave him such a spanking. But just getting dirty, you know, for God's sakes, kids are supposed to get dirty. And there was no time after that when he got the high fever. And then he was blind for a while, and then the polio took such a toll out of them.
Deadly disease.
But I mean, it took a toll out of both of them too. You know, it gave Bob the heart problem, I'm sure. Carrying him up and down the stairs. You see, if they'd known ahead, they could have built a one-story house. You know what I mean? But their house was lovely out there in Valley Street.
I vaguely remember that. I think I remember a lot of houses that looked alike.
They did.
And
They
we
were.
got lost walking with my father, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because, like, one contractor builds a whole lot. Yeah.
I think I remember a train station. It probably was a trolley station, elevated
Oh, yeah.
trolley station.
The L that you came
That we
in.
must
What
have-
did they call it? That you came
The
in
Long
from,
Island
from
Railroad.
yeah, Long Island Railroad. That's right. Had to change at Jamaica. Go the rest of the way. Jamaica doesn't mean anything to me, but I mean that was the like Park Square in
Oh,
Boston.
yes,
This is
yeah.
Jamaica where they make the change. You know, depending upon which direction you're going in.
So did Uncle Bob have his candy store after World War One?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yes.
yes,
because
So
I
he probably
remember it.
went from school into the service and
Let's see. Well, he was.
1896.
They must.
1914. He would have been 18 years old. He most likely went right in out of high school. I think he graduated. I'm pretty sure he
Yeah, I
graduated
think
from
so.
high school. Yeah. In fact, I think I have. Didn't we find the picture of his class? Wasn't that? Wasn't
Yes,
it Home
so,
Alone?
yeah,
Home
7 or 8
Alone?
people.
Yeah, that we knew.
Yeah.
Amongst Gert's things. Yeah.
That was Bob's birth.
Pretty sure it was high school graduation. Yeah. So I
I
think.
remember we found the
Mhm.
graduation program, I think. That was Bob's.
Mhm.
Well, then he must have gone right in. He must have been listed right in the service, and immediately out of high school as soon as he was old enough. I just know he was in the tank corps, and he really saw service
Action.
in France. Yeah.
Well, then they must have got married very soon after he came back.
Well, let's see what else. Gert's.
She was born she was married either 1920 or 1921. Idea?
I don't know. I have her ring. If you remember, that was one of the things I taught. Her class ring. It is cracked, so I haven't used it now for some time. But you couldn't read the letters on the side because where it had been on the little finger, they were worn off.
But that was the prettiest class ring Rockport I ever had. It was all gold. The RHS was in like a shield, that shape. Bigger at the top and go down into a point. And the RHS in that. And then, of course, the 19 and whatever the year was on that side. Now, she was a senior. So if she went to school, if she started school in 1910, 1922,
12 years, only 11, 12 years.
Well, that would have made her 16. She would
maybe
have been
it's 20,
16 in 1920.
23 or 4.
are you sure she got married at 16? Or?
Well, she got married when she
Before she graduated. from
before
high
she
school.
graduated, and her birthday is in July,
Went to school at 5, no doubt.
and she most likely started at 5 years old. Yeah. And that would have been, what, 1909? Yeah. 1921? Is she been a senior?
Now, did you have that extra grade back in those days?
I
That you
think we
talking
did
about
have the
earlier?
9th grade then. I think we did, yeah.
So would that mean that she'd gone for 12 years
So
and
that
this
would
was
be-
her 13th?
It would be 13.
Well, I know, I think their wedding day was December 21st, so,
Yeah, it was a Christmas vacation.
yeah.
From high school, yeah.
A great deal of misfortune, I'd say.
Because they were married 10 years before Junior was born. That's right, he was born in 31. Marilyn in 32 and Anita in 33. Yeah.
As we were saying the other day.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Those three were right along in a row.
Which three again? Junior and
Marilyn and Anita.
Marilyn and Anita.
Marilyn, you know, that's Emma's only one.
Yes,
only
yeah.
child.
So,
So let's take a rest.